For a century, the Titanic has been hidden in darkness.
It's been over a century since the infamous Titanic sank to the bottom of the Atlantic, taking with it a treasure trove of history and mystery. Now, a daring team of scientists has achieved the impossible, retrieving the first piece of the Titanic from its watery grave. And what they've uncovered is both awe-inspiring and chilling, unraveling a century-old enigma and rewriting the story of the most infamous shipwreck in history. Join us on a journey to unravel how these teams of scientists achieved the impossible. In 1912, the Titanic tragically collided with an iceberg while traveling from Southampton to New York, resulting in the deaths of 1,500 individuals, both passengers and crew members. Despite much speculation, the true reason behind the sinking remains unknown, with the only potential answers resting at a depth of 12,500 feet, approximately 3,800 m in the Atlantic Ocean. The story of the Titanic has served as a source of inspiration for numerous books, articles, and films. It had been 73 years since the Titanic set sail on its first and tragic journey to New York. Many people who wanted to find the shipwreck had suggested different methods like using magnets or balloons to bring it up from the deep sea. The only problem was that nobody knew where it was. During its incident, the Titanic had kept moving after sending a distress call with its location, so the search area was huge, spanning hundreds of miles. Many missions had been sent out to look for the ship's resting place, but all of them, including one in 1977 led by Ballard, had returned without finding anything. It was just a matter of time before something unimaginable happened. Undeterred, Ballard initiated his second search attempt back in the early 1980s, when he proposed to the U.S. Navy the idea of developing the Argo, an unmanned camera sled that could be pulled behind a surface ship to depths of 20,000 feet. The Navy declined to finance a search for the Titanic, but they were intrigued by the potential use of Ballard's new robot to explore the wrecks of the USS Thresher and Scorpion, two nuclear submarines lost in the Atlantic in the 1960s. After negotiations, they reached a compromise. If Ballard could successfully locate and map the two sunken subs, he would be allowed to search for the Titanic with any remaining time. But even after exploring the ocean floor for over a week with their special camera robot, they hadn't found anything except lots of sand and dirt. With only a few days left before the mission was over, he was starting to get worried that they might never find the amazing ship of dreams. Dr. Robert Ballard couldn't fall asleep. It was early in the morning on September 1st, 1985, and the 43-year-old ocean scientist was lying in his bed on the research boat called Nor. Dr. Ballard had taken his ship to the North Atlantic Ocean to search for the famous Titanic shipwreck that had been lost for a long time. Ballard attempted to divert his attention by engrossing himself in a book, but his focus was interrupted when the Nor's cook suddenly appeared. The cook informed him that the on-duty watch team required his presence. Without wasting a moment, Ballard hastily put on a jumpsuit over his pajamas and hurried to the ship's control van. Upon reaching there, his colleagues replayed the recent footage captured by their robot's live video feed of the seafloor. Although the footage was dim and grainy, there was no mistaking the presence of a metal object, one of Titanic's boilers. Overwhelmed with excitement, Ballard and his crew erupted into a chorus of cheers and applause. After the discovery, Ballard and his team rushed to capture the wreckage using both Argo and Angus, an additional unmanned submarine equipped for capturing still images. The photographs unveiled extensive portions of Titanic's hull and mast, showcasing the crow's nest where the tragic iceberg was initially sighted. Numerous hatches were missing, and a vacant skylight provided a tantalizing view into the area where the ship's luxurious grand staircase once stood. Among the vast debris field were intact china plates, furniture fragments, and even a sealed case of champagne. Marine scavengers had already devoured any human remains present. The only traces of the victims left behind were numerous pairs of leather shoes scattered across the sandy seabed. However, what Ballard discovered was nothing compared to what happened next. A 3D scan that froze the time of experts and revealed intriguing information about the Titanic. Imagine standing in front of the Titanic debris. Recently, a team of deep-sea researchers dedicated to unraveling the mystery of the Titanic has completed the first full-sized 3D digital scan of the Titanic wreckage more than 100 years after the ship sank on its maiden voyage. Using remotely operated underwater vehicles over 6 weeks, they thoroughly explored the shipwreck and the debris field that extends for miles around it. Personal items belonging to the ship's passengers and crew, like champagne bottles, watches, and shoes, can still be found scattered on the ocean floor. The two sophisticated submersibles collected over 16 terabytes of data, consisting of 715,000 images and a high-resolution video in the North Atlantic. After collecting the data, researchers dedicated 7 months to reconstructing a precise digital replica, or twin, of the Titanic, down to the smallest detail. The outcome is an exceptionally intricate model that reveals minute features, such as the serial number on the ship's propeller. It was indeed the most comprehensive depiction of the Titanic the world has ever seen. It doesn't end there. The completion of the model brings hope to the creators as they anticipate its assistance in providing a more precise understanding of the events that unfolded during the renowned Titanic disaster. Enthusiasts of the ship's history will have the opportunity to virtually explore the vessel using the model, giving them the sensation of walking through the ship in the absence of water. Excitingly, the scan has already led to new revelations, such as the observation that one of the Titanic's lifeboats remained unused due to being obstructed by a jammed metal piece. However, there are still fundamental questions that remain unanswered regarding the ship. Despite the 3D representation, researchers are finding ways to lift the debris from the deep, dark bed of the Atlantic Ocean. Some have proposed incredible ideas, but one in particular has made huge progress in retrieving the Titanic shipwreck. You will be amazed at the details of this amazing discovery. The minute the Titanic was seen for the first time in more than 70 years, it was believed that any attempt to raise her would be a futile endeavor. Far from being intact, the ship had been ripped in half, its contents spilled out over a debris field covering 3 miles of the ocean floor. The ship's stern section was a battered, collapsed mess that looked like it had been the victim of an explosion. Its bow section, while in better shape structurally, was buried 60 feet in the mud of the seabed. There have been numerous imaginative proposals that have emerged throughout the years. Though they might sound implausible, however, one of these proposals got the Titanic. Number 1. Using polyester filled with 180,000 tons of Vaseline. Can you imagine 180,000 tons of Vaseline piped down 12,500 feet of the ocean floor? One of the numerous imaginative proposals that have emerged throughout the years is the concept of using polyester bags filled with 180,000 tons of Vaseline to salvage the Titanic. This unique approach was put forward by a British expert in underwater salvage, who proposed injecting Vaseline petroleum jelly into polyester bags positioned within the ship's hull. The idea behind this theory was that the Vaseline would solidify in the frigid water, enabling the vessel to become buoyant and thus capable of being towed to a shallower depth. If you put Vaseline inside a balloon and submerge it underwater, the balloon may or may not stay inflated, depending on the temperature of the water. If the water is warmer than the air inside the balloon, the Vaseline could act as an insulator, preventing the air from leaking out and causing the balloon to stay inflated. However, if the water is colder than the air inside the balloon, the temperature difference could cause the air to contract, and the balloon could deflate, and this could be a potential problem because of the depth of the Titanic. However, this idea is not without its downside. Transporting and delivering 180,000 tons of Vaseline to the ocean floor would pose a tremendous logistical hurdle. The Titanic's resting place, which lies at a depth of over 12,500 feet, presents daunting technical obstacles due to the intense pressure and freezing temperatures. Number 2. Using ping-pong balls. Imagine the use of your regular ping-pong balls to float the debris of the gigantic Titanic. Was this possible? Ping-pong balls, when amassed in large numbers, possessed the ability to provide buoyancy to lift the sunken liner. The plan involved filling the Titanic with thousands of ping-pong balls through a hose, enabling the ship to become light enough to float back to the surface. The foundation of this theory stemmed from Archimedes, the renowned Greek mathematician, who unveiled a crucial principle concerning buoyancy. According to Archimedes' principle, the buoyant force pushing upwards on an object immersed in a fluid like water is equivalent to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. Put simply, when an object displaces a specific volume of water, it encounters an upward force caused by the buoyancy of the water. Seems possible, right? Well, this concept had its disadvantages. The Titanic is believed to weigh around 52,000 tons. Each standard ping-pong ball has a volume of about 2.7 cubic inches. By assuming the perfect packing of the balls, we can figure out the quantity needed. Dividing the Titanic's volume by that of a ping-pong ball allows us to determine the required number. Using this approach, we would require roughly 1.5 million ping-pong balls to match the ship's weight in buoyancy. Also, transporting a large quantity of ping-pong balls to the location of the Titanic would present a complex logistical challenge. The Titanic currently lies at a depth of around 12,500 feet beneath the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. Distributing the balls accurately and uniformly around the wreck would prove to be an extremely difficult task, and it risks floating away because the debris doesn't have an enclosed space. The immense water pressure at such depths is a critical factor to consider. For every 33 feet of depth, the pressure increases. Consequently, the ping-pong balls would be immediately compressed by this intense pressure, making them ineffective for providing buoyancy. Even if they were able to maintain their buoyancy initially, they would rapidly lose their shape and volume. Moreover, the structure of the Titanic's hull is delicate after spending over a century submerged underwater. Introducing ping-pong balls into the hull could create uneven forces on the ship's framework. This could pose a significant risk of causing additional damage or potentially leading to a collapse. Achieving flawless packing of ping-pong balls is nearly unattainable. Any gaps between the balls could diminish the overall buoyancy, leading to potential issues. The balls may also stick together, resulting in an uneven distribution. Also, the expenses associated with acquiring and transporting millions of ping-pong balls would be extremely high. The entire project would demand significant resources and financial backing. While the concept is intriguing, the practical obstacles make it unrealistic. Number 3. Blowing the ship apart from under the ocean. The idea of blowing the ship apart involves using dynamite to disintegrate the Titanic into pieces in the dark depths of the ocean. The debris, however, becomes lighter, causing it to float to the surface of the ocean. This idea involves combining explosives and engineering with delicate precision. However, this method is not without its challenges. To achieve this feat, the first step is to thoroughly map and assess the entire structure of the wreck, identifying the best points for placing the dynamites while preserving their historical integrity. Exploding the Titanic underwater would require advanced equipment, such as remotely operated underwater vehicles, ROVs, equipped with a lot of explosives. ROVs are specifically designed to withstand deep-sea conditions. The precision required for each cut cannot be emphasized enough because it can be dangerous. Every explosive must be carefully placed to avoid blowing apart the necessary parts of the wreck, which could lead to collapse or further deterioration. Once the explosives are placed, each diver needs to get to the surface before it blows up. But there are challenges to this idea. One significant challenge is the harsh environmental conditions at the site. With depths of over 12,500 feet, extreme pressure and cold temperatures complicate the operation. Explosives might likely go off before its time, and the risk of an explosive not carefully placed floating away is of great danger. In conclusion, the idea of blowing up the Titanic can only remain in the imagination of those who conceived the idea. There's a high possibility the ship may never float even if it's blown apart. It's been on the seabed for centuries, and it's very fragile. Any attempt to blow it up won't give the desired outcome. Number 4. Turning the ship to ice. If the iceberg sank, why not turn it into an iceberg to float it? Now here's the reason for the idea. Ice floats because it's less dense than water. The water molecules in ice are arranged in a very specific pattern that creates a lot of space between them. This makes the ice less dense, and as a result, it floats on top of the water. It is believed if the wreck is frozen rock solid, it will automatically float to the surface. How do they plan to achieve this? In the past, a salvager came up with an idea to encase the shipwreck in wire mesh and surround it with liquid nitrogen. The hope was that the nitrogen would freeze, creating a large block of ice that would lift the ship to the surface. Unfortunately, this approach is extremely impractical. At room temperature, hydrogen exists as a gas. However, it is theoretically possible to transform it into a solid by subjecting it to extremely low temperatures. Nevertheless, there are multiple reasons why this approach would not be feasible for raising the Titanic. Hydrogen transitions into a liquid state in low temperatures and solidifies only under even more extreme conditions. Achieving such frigid temperatures at the depths of the ocean would pose significant technological and safety challenges. Even if hydrogen could be solidified, the amount of volume required to lift the immense weight of the Titanic would be colossal. The buoyancy provided by the solidified hydrogen would likely be insufficient to counterbalance the weight of the wreckage and the force of the ocean currents at that depth. Furthermore, containing hydrogen is a challenging task due to its small size and lightness. It tends to escape through tiny openings, and if any containment failure were to occur at the depths where the Titanic lies, the consequences would be disastrous because the flammability and explosiveness of hydrogen are particularly pronounced when it is combined with oxygen. Undertaking such a procedure in the unpredictable and volatile environment of the deep sea poses considerable safety hazards. Moreover, introducing substantial amounts of hydrogen or other substances into the ocean could have unforeseen consequences on the environment. This could potentially lead to harm to marine life and disrupt delicate ecosystems. However, the Titanic has been submerged for more than 100 years, causing extensive damage. Bringing it up in one piece would be extremely improbable, given its delicate condition. Although the concept of freezing the Titanic to raise it is creative, the challenges of deep-sea recovery and the need to preserve the historical location make it an unattainable goal. Number 5. Using magnets. Imagine a large magnet sent down 12,500 feet of the Titanic ocean bed and carrying the weight of the Titanic as it emerges. This ambitious proposal sparked a lot of interest and debate among experts and the public alike. The architect argued that using magnets would be a more efficient and cost-effective method compared to traditional salvage operations involving divers and cranes. He believed that this innovative approach could potentially preserve the ship and its artifacts in better condition. However, despite the initial excitement surrounding the idea, the plan ultimately faced numerous technical challenges and logistical hurdles. The sheer size and weight of the Titanic, combined with the depth at which it lay on the ocean floor, made the prospect of using magnets to raise the ship a daunting task. Additionally, concerns were raised about the potential damage that could be caused to the wreckage and the surrounding marine environment during the retrieval process. The possibility of transporting a large magnet to the ocean floor where the Titanic rests is theoretically feasible. However, numerous practical and technical obstacles make this idea highly improbable. Firstly, the depth at which the Titanic lies is approximately 12,500 feet, which surpasses the capabilities of most conventional diving equipment. Specialized deep-sea submersibles or remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, would be necessary to reach such depths. Additionally, the pressure at these depths is immense, measuring around 5,500 pounds per square inch. Objects not specifically designed to withstand these conditions could be damaged or crushed under such extreme pressure. Moreover, the size and weight of the Titanic pose significant challenges. It is an enormous structure, and lifting it with magnets would require an extraordinary amount of force. Unfortunately, current technological capabilities do not allow for the creation of a magnet powerful enough to accomplish this task, and the condition of the wreck must be taken into consideration. After being submerged for over a century, the Titanic has experienced significant deterioration. Attaching magnets strong enough to lift it could potentially cause the structure to disintegrate. Considering these practical and technical limitations, the idea of transporting a large magnet to the ocean floor to lift the Titanic is highly unlikely to be realized. Number 6. Using balloons. Does this sound ridiculous? However, it's the most potent of all. The concept of using underwater balloons, also known as lift bags, to raise the Titanic was proposed and put into practice. This innovative idea involves attaching these specialized balloons to the wreckage of the Titanic and then inflating them with air or another buoyant medium to create enough lift to bring the object to the surface of the ocean. The overall density of the lift bag changes by altering the volume of air inside. When the bag is filled with sufficient air, it becomes less dense than the surrounding water, resulting in its ascent. In a notable and successful attempt, a piece of the Titanic's hull, famously referred to as the Big Piece, was lifted using underwater lift bags. These lift bags were filled with diesel oil, a substance lighter than water, which allowed them to generate the necessary lifting force to bring the massive piece of wreckage to the surface. The lift bags, resembling buoys, were a total of 6 in number, each with a generous capacity of 20 cubic meters, with the impressive capability of lifting to 22 tons. This method proved successful for a small portion of the hull. However, the monumental task of lifting the entire Titanic presented a much more intricate and daunting challenge. The sheer size of the wreck, coupled with its location at a depth where the pressure is immense, added to the complexity of the operation. Furthermore, the deteriorating condition of the Titanic over the years has rendered it fragile, posing the risk of potential breakage if any attempt were made to lift it. However, lifting the Titanic using this method was the most meticulous of all. To achieve this, divers initially surveyed the Titanic wreck to pinpoint a detachable section for lifting. The lift bags were then meticulously fastened to the chosen part of the wreck, often requiring divers to secure them to sturdy points for a stable lift. Following attachment, the lift bags were gradually inflated with air, typically by sending air down through hoses from the surface or using tanks carried by divers. They are then placed on the object before the bags are inflated. As the bags inflate, they create an upward buoyancy, initiating the lift of the wreck section. Careful control of the air amount was crucial to manage the ascent rate and prevent damage. Once the lifted section reached the surface, it was secured and transported to a support vessel or brought ashore for further examination and preservation. Number 7. Using cables. This method outshines all. To achieve this, a network of sturdy cables is placed into the mysterious dark depths of the ocean and carefully attached to the Titanic. These cables possess incredible strength and are ever ready to challenge the forces that have kept the ship submerged for over a century. But how exactly does this method work? What challenges and considerations come into play? Cable lifting involves the use of robust cables attached to cranes or ships, enabling them to lift heavy objects. In the case of the Titanic, this would require a fleet of specially equipped ships, each armed with powerful winches and cranes capable of lifting thousands of tons. These ships would be strategically positioned above the wreck, with cables carefully lowered and attached to various points on the ship's structure. The first challenge lies in attaching these cables. The Titanic rests in 2 main pieces, surrounded by a scattered debris field. The cables must be attached in a way that evenly distributes the lifting force across the entire structure. Achieving this balance necessitates a deep understanding of the wreck's current condition and structural integrity. It's not simply a matter of attaching cables. It's about finding the precise points to ensure a stable and balanced lift. However, the task doesn't end there. The strength of the cables and the lifting capacity of the cranes or ships must be extraordinary. The weight of the ship originally exceeded 52,000 tons, which has likely increased due to undersea accumulation over time. The cables must be constructed from materials capable of withstanding not only this immense weight, but also the corrosive effects of seawater and the crushing pressure of the deep sea. Furthermore, the lifting process must be flawless. Each crane or ship involved must lift at the same rate, to prevent the wreck from tilting or fracturing. Achieving this perfect synchronization poses a significant challenge, considering the unpredictable nature of deep-sea conditions and the potential for shifts in the underwater environment. To achieve this, in summary, the cable lifting method is a testament to human ingenuity and determination. It requires a harmonious blend of strength, precision, and adaptability to overcome the formidable obstacles presented by the depths of the ocean. The vision of cables descending into the abyss, ready to lift the Titanic from its watery grave, is a testament to our unwavering pursuit of exploration and discovery. Number 8. Using submersible cranes. Submersible cranes are specifically engineered to function underwater, setting them apart from traditional cranes. They are built to endure the challenging ocean environment, ensuring stability and durability. Equipped with specialized features like underwater lights, video cameras, and sonar systems, submersible cranes can efficiently operate beneath the surface. These tools aid operators in maintaining visibility and communication even in deep waters. The lifting capacity of submersible cranes varies based on their size and design, with some capable of hoisting up to 5,000 tons. Others are tailored for lighter loads, showcasing the versatility of these underwater machines. While submersible cranes offer immense utility for salvage, construction, and research purposes, they come with a hefty price tag and demand a high level of expertise to operate effectively. Raising the Titanic using a submersible crane is indeed a possibility, but it would be an enormous and costly endeavor. The process would require a great deal of expertise and resources. The Titanic is a massive ship, and lifting it would be a complex and risky operation. There are several challenges that would need to be overcome. Firstly, the depth at which the Titanic rests is a significant obstacle. It is located at a depth of 12,500 feet, which is deeper than most submersible cranes can reach. Additionally, the fragility of the Titanic is a concern. After being submerged for over a century, the ship's structure has weakened considerably. Any attempt to raise it could potentially cause it to break apart. Overall, while it is technically possible to use a submersible crane to raise the Titanic, it would require extensive planning, expertise, and resources. It is a fascinating idea, but one that would come with significant challenges and risks. Number 9. Fill the ship with wax. Wax floats on water because it is less dense due to its composition and structure. Many waxes contain long carbon and hydrogen chains, which are lighter than water molecules, causing the wax to float effortlessly on the surface of the water. However, attempting to fill the Titanic with boiling wax might sound like a daring plan, but it comes with numerous obstacles that make it a difficult task to accomplish. To begin with, the logistics of pumping boiling wax into a sunken ship that lies at a depth of over 12,000 feet would be an incredibly daunting challenge. It would require a powerful pump, a substantial amount of wax, and a method to maintain the wax's high temperature as it descends into the icy depths of the ocean. Moreover, the sheer size of the Titanic poses another hurdle. With its length exceeding 882 feet and a gross tonnage surpassing 46,000, filling the entire ship with enough wax would demand an enormous quantity. This could prove to be both financially burdensome and environmentally problematic. Even if it were possible to successfully pump sufficient wax into the ship and solidify it, there is no guarantee that the wax would possess the strength to hold the vessel intact. After resting underwater for more than a century, the hull of the Titanic may have become brittle and susceptible to breaking due to rust and corrosion. Ultimately, while the idea may be intriguing, the practical challenges and ethical concerns make it highly improbable to employ boiling wax as a solution for raising the Titanic. It is perhaps more prudent to leave the ship where it lies and instead focus on preserving its legacy through alternative means such as education, museums, and documentaries.